Welcome to Versus. This is Spencer. Today we have a great comparison of two wonderful space-themed games, Race for the Galaxy and Eminent Domain, both of which are wonderful in my opinion. I love playing these things. First, let me give you a quick overview of Race for the Galaxy. As you can tell from this box cover and from the art, this is a space game. You have cards and you have role selection, and this is kind of similar in some ways. I know the mechanics are similar to the classic Puerto Rico. So you are selecting different roles, and if you choose the role, you get a bonus. And if someone else chooses the role, you can still do it, but you don't get the bonus. So in this case, you choose the role based on what cards you want to pick. You can explore to get new cards. Yeah, you can develop to kind of create these new technologies that help you. You can settle. You can choose the role of settle, which allows you to put out new worlds. So these worlds are based on different areas that you can then create resources. And the other key kind of mechanic in this game is that each card that you pick up has multiple uses. So this card could be, for example, Epsilon Eridani could be a card that you add to your tableau to be part of your world, or it could be used as a cost in some other way. It also could be a resource if it's placed face down. So I won't go into too many details of what the rules are, but in general, you're trying to build these synergies based on what cards are in front of you in your tableau. There's tons of cute little icons that help you decide what happens at different phases and what bonuses you get, etc. So that's kind of a short overview of Race for the Galaxy. Eminent Domain is, as you can see there, is also a space game. And not to sound like a broken record, but it has role selection. You're going to choose different roles that you want. The choices are things like Survey, which allows you to pick up new cards, Warfare, which gives you these cool ships that you can use to attack planets. You have to make those noises when you do it. Colonize is to peacefully get these different planets. Again, you're building planets in your tableau. There's Iconography. Kind of sounds like a broken record. There's Iconography that tells you what you can do when. You can also produce goods. You can trade in goods, which give you points. And you can research. Kind of a different thing here is there's these different technologies here that adds quite a bit. I won't go into the details of all of them, but there's also a big deck building element to this game. In fact, they call it a deck building strategy game. And so as you go about the game, you're not only selecting your role, you're also building a deck. And similar to other deck builders, you then use those cards in different ways as you go. That's a brief overview. Because they're both mainly card games, there's not a lot of differences as far as the pieces are concerned. Race for the Galaxy is much more purely a card game. Eminent Domain does have a few more little components that you can use. These are to signify the resources that are produced. There's the spaceships, which I already showed you, come in 3 sizes. In the base game, the sizes do not matter. Points, cards, etc. There is a small board, but that's simply just to hold the different roles. So kind of, there's not a ton of pieces and bits that you use throughout the game, but it doesn't really matter. The similarity is obviously the space theme, where you're going to have ships, and you're going to have technologies, and you're going to have warfare, and you're going to have exploration, and all these things kind of work together in different ways. The cards have individualized artwork in Race for the Galaxy, which doesn't add a ton to it, other than just visually. I tend to not even look at them. I'm always busy looking at the numbers and the icons, so I don't get into it too much. That said, the Eminent Domain cards are a bit more basic looking. The design is still good, and the functionality is there, so it doesn't matter a ton. The biggest difference, I think, is that Race for the Galaxy, to me, seems a bit more streamlined and sometimes referred to as elegant, where Eminent Domain is still a great game, but the deck building aspect kind of waters it down a bit. So as you're playing Race for the Galaxy and you have your cards in front of you, I feel like there's a lot more tension because each card can be so important, whether you're searching for the perfect card to add to your tableau or whether you're trying hard to sacrifice a certain card that you're going to possibly regret giving up at some point. Whereas in Eminent Domain, as you build your deck, it can become a bit watered down. It can become, I don't know, a bit diluted a little bit as you play, because your deck will then... There's ways to thin out your deck, like most deck builders, and I think that's an important piece of it as well. In general, both games are a lot of fun. They play both 2 to 4 players. Tom Lehman, the designer of Race for the Galaxy, and Seth Jaffe, the designer of Eminent Domain, should both be congratulated. They're both wonderful. My pick out of both of these, as far as my favorite, would be Race for the Galaxy. Plays a little better in my mind. Replayability is a bit better as well, as there's so many cards to go through and so many different ways to win and strategies to employ. Eminent Domain is also really good, and the deck building isn't as fun in my opinion, but it's still really well done. So there you have a brief overview and comparison of Race for the Galaxy and Eminent Domain.